All right, so we did the top problem on page 8, and now we are about a third of the way down the page where it says slope and equations of lines. Hopefully, most of what we're going to be doing today is review from Algebra 1. Hopefully, most of this looks familiar. Our formula to find slope. We let a lowercase letter m represent slope. And slope is rise over run. Which axis rises? The y-axis. So to find the rise, we need the difference in our y values. y2 minus y1 is my rise. And then x2 minus x1 is how we find the run. That is our formula to calculate slope from a point. The slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b. That lowercase m, this is why we let that lowercase m represent slope in the slope formula, because that's what the lowercase m means here in our slope-intercept form. And b represents the y-intercept. Point slope form for a line. We use point slope form when we know a single point that is on the line that is not the y-intercept, and we know the slope. So this is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Where once again, m is our slope. And y1 and x1 are a known point on the line. We will use this form of the linear equation, again, when we know what the slope is and we know a single point on the line. We will use the slope-intercept form of the line if we know the slope and the y-intercept. The bottom one is when we know a different point other than the y-intercept. When we have parallel lines, we have the same slope but a different y-intercept. Two lines that have the same m are parallel lines. Same m but different b. Perpendicular lines, on the other hand, the slopes are opposite signs and reciprocals. Excuse me. Slopes are opposite sign and reciprocals. Does anybody happen to remember what reciprocals are? Yes, sir.
Well, reciprocal, I believe it means like you flip the denominator and the numerator, and then you change like the value from positive to negative.
That would be the opposite sign part. The reciprocal part is just the flipping of the fraction. You're correct.
Okay. I was going to ask about what you meant by opposite sign.
Yep. Reciprocal is a flipped fraction. For perpendicular lines, my slopes multiply to -1. So they are opposite signs of each other and they are reciprocals. And I can check if I have two slopes by multiplying them together and seeing if they simplify to -1. Let's start looking at a couple of problems. Let's look down at number 1. In number 1, we are given two different points, points A and B. And we are asked to find the slope of the line that goes through those 2 points. So if we're going to find the slope of the line that goes through those points, we're going to do m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Yes, you have to pick one of your points to be point 1 and the other one to be point 2. It doesn't matter which is which, but you have to stick with your decision. If you decide that point A is point 1, then you have x1 and y1 here. Yes. So I'm going to let A be my x1, y1. And I'm going to let B be my x2, y2. And then we're going to substitute in here. I need y2 to be the first number I write down in the numerator. What is y2 here? -10. So I have -10 minus, and then what is y1? Because it's y2 minus y1. 8. So -10 minus 8 in my numerator. Down in the denominator now, I want x2 minus x1. What is x2? -6. Minus my x1, which is -2. What happens when we subtract a negative like this right here? It's going to turn into a positive. So I have -10 minus 8 in my numerator, but I have -6 plus 2 in my denominator. What is -10 minus 8? -18. What is -6 plus 2? -4. I have a negative divided by a negative. What's going to happen? It's going to turn positive. So this is the same thing as +18 over +4. And now I have to reduce that fraction down if I can. Is there anything that you know of that'll go into both 18 and 4 at the same time? 2 goes into both of them, and that is the biggest thing that goes into both. What is 18 divided by 2? And 4 divided by 2? So 9 over 2 is the slope of the line that passes through those 2 points. Here's my rise. Here's my run. Part B asks me now to look at this and to figure out what the slope of the line is that is parallel to line AB. What did we say up above about parallel line slopes? Same slope. Different y-intercept, but I don't know what the y-intercept is on this one, so I just need to know for this part, since they're just asking me about the slope, I need to know that we have the same slope. So what would the slope of a parallel line be? 9 over 2. For perpendicular, we need opposite sign and reciprocal. -2 over 9, yes. We changed it from a positive to a negative, so we changed the sign, and then we flipped the fraction over. That would be my reciprocal. And then to make sure that I did this part correctly, this should multiply to -1. So let's check and see if that's true. 9 over 2 times -2 over 9. Does anybody remember how to multiply fractions? How do we multiply fractions together?
Multiply the numerators by each other and multiply the denominators.
Yes, we multiply straight across, numerator to numerator or top to top, denominator to denominator, bottom to bottom. What is 9 times -2? -18. What is 2 times 9? +18. What is -18 divided by +18? -1. So I got -1 when I multiplied my slope and the perpendicular slope together. I'm going to give you guys about 3 minutes. I want you to do number 2 on your own, exactly like what we did right here. Take about 3 minutes. You should have your notes out, honey. Okay, your numerator looks great. The bottom is x2 minus x1. Your x2 is 5, but what's your x1?
Oh, 6.
Yep. But other than that, your setup looks great. All right. Let's look at this. So we have our slope m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Which one of these do you want to be 0.1, P or K? P, sounds good. X1, Y1. It does not matter which one you pick to be 0.1 and which one you pick to be 0.2. You just have to make a choice. And so then K would be my X2, Y2. Which one goes in top, the X's or Y's? The Y's go up on top. Be careful of that because we're so used to X coming first that we tend to screw this one up. So remember and write down your slope formula. Y goes up on top, so I'd have 2 minus what? -3. 2 minus -3 in my numerator. And then down in my denominator, I have 5 minus what? 5 minus 6. So up in my numerator, because I'm subtracting a negative here, this turns into 2 plus 3. And down in the denominator, I still have 5 minus 6. What is 2 plus 3? 5. What is 5 minus 6? Negative 1. Can I simplify that at all? I think I can. Negative 5. I don't have to write it as a fraction when my denominator is a 1 or a negative 1. We can write it as a whole number. What would be the slope of the line that is parallel to this one? Negative 5. Because we have the same slope. For my perpendicular, 1 over 5, yes. Opposite sign. So it goes from being a negative to be a positive. And reciprocal. So I'm looking at this when I flip this over, because I want it in fraction form. So we have 1 over 5. And then we can check to make sure that we did that correctly, because these should multiply to negative 1. So I have negative 5 times 1 over 5. How do you multiply a whole number with a fraction? Put a 1 underneath it. So negative 5 becomes negative 5 over 1. And then we multiply top to top, bottom to bottom. So I have negative 5 times 1, which is negative 5, and 1 times 5, which is 5. That simplifies down to negative 1. So we did this correctly. Nicely done. We're going to turn the page and do number 3 up at the top of the page, and then we're going to pause for your skills check. We will finish the rest of this out tomorrow in your notes. Yes. Okay, so you had negative 5 here, but you forgot to write the negative here. So that should go right there. And then for this one, you would just make it positive. Yes. If you were to write this with the negative for this, I would still accept that. All right. Number 3, find the equation in slope-intercept form. What is slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. This is the form for my answer. Answer must look like this. For the line parallel to negative 5 over 2 plus 5, parallel means what about my slope?
It stays the same.
Same slope. Well, what is the slope on this line? Negative 5 over 2. This is m. This is my y-intercept, b. So my parallel slope is negative 5 over 2. I don't want it to be the same line, though. I want it to go through a different point. It's going to go through this point here. So this is my x1 and my y1. We know what we want the slope to be. We know the point that it needs to go through. So we are going to use point-slope form. You guys should have learned point-slope form in Algebra 1, but this one probably feels a little bit more unfamiliar. This is y minus y1 equals m, and then parentheses, x minus x1. So we're going to substitute into that, and then we are going to simplify. The y and the x, without the numbers next to them, stay y and x. So as I'm substituting in, this stays y, and this stays x. What do we want the slope to be? Negative 5 over 2. That's what we're putting in for m. And now I need to take that point, the x1 and the y1, and put it in for x1 and y1 here. X goes next to my x. What is the x1 from up there? Negative 8. So this is going to be minus negative 8. The minus has to come straight down from the parentheses here, and then x1 is negative 8. And then over here I need to put y1 in this spot. What is y1? 3. So down here we have minus 3. Again, the minus comes straight down from my formula. So far, so good? Over here inside these parentheses, I'm subtracting a negative, which is the same thing as what? A positive. So y minus 3 equals negative 5 over 2, and then parentheses x plus 8. What do we do with numbers that are outside of parentheses? We distribute them. We're going to multiply them inside the parentheses. So I would have y minus 3 equals negative 5 over 2 times x plus, and now you can either grab your calculator or we can do this one together in our heads. Remember, we multiply top to top and bottom to bottom. This 8 is not a fraction, but I can turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. What is negative 5 times 8?
Negative 20.
Negative 40. 2 times 1? 2. So I have negative 40 over 2. What is negative 40 over 2? Negative 20. So this is going to be minus 20. There is one last thing I need to do to get it into y equals mx plus b form. I need the y all by itself. Add 3 to both sides. So my final answer in slope-intercept form is y equals negative 5 over 2x minus 17. Negative 20 plus 3.
Oh. When I did it for number 3, I actually just put the...
That's an okay method as well. That is an okay method. All right. We are going to finish up the rest of these notes, questions 4 and 5 tomorrow, as well as pushing forward into the new material. Go ahead and clear your desks off for your skills check. The new homework that you guys picked up on your way in the door is due on Friday. New homework is due on Friday. I can go back to it. Negative 20 plus 3. You're welcome. Yes.